Some people would say that as an established organization, working with startups is a challenge. But in fact, most of the club members that wanted to work with startups, they find out that real challenge to begin with was to find the right startup. So how would you, the word that's being used in this term, it is scouting. How would you scout to find the right startup? So if there's a startup that knocked you at your door and you find this startup interesting and people managing it is very competent, and ultimately there's a very key step that is probably already done, which is to identify an interesting startup. But most of the case, we don't have this startup at our doorstep yet. So we have to scout. So let's have a look at how we scout and what is the process to do it.
This video from the Innovation Leaders Club will introduce a structured approach to scouting startups, ensuring you identify the best collaborator to innovate with. Finding a good innovation partner usually results from an existing client-vendor collaboration. But when it comes to innovating with a startup, there's no such pre-existing collaboration. So learn how to structure your search so that you can narrow down your evaluation to a few potential candidates. We have developed a 60-page visual guidebook on how to develop an innovation strategy. It is a fully illustrated step-by-step guide to building the foundation of an innovation system. Click the link in the description below to download it for free. Scouting startups is the process of identifying, evaluating, and selecting the best startups for your innovation program and your organization. It is important to follow a well-thought-out methodology to maintain a good reputation in the startup ecosystem for future partnership opportunities. We developed this 5-step framework to help medium and large organizations build a startup portfolio that is truly aligned with their needs. Several partners in the startup ecosystems can help and support you in identifying the right startups for your innovation program with similar methodologies. Here's the suggested. First, kick off the scouting mission with the right stakeholders and agree on the timeline and key deliverables. You may want to sign a service agreement if you're working with an external partner, such as an accelerator or incubator. Next in planning and designing is to identify and be sure everyone in the project understands the problem you're trying to solve. Additionally, you can do a high-level assessment of the possible solutions and define the startup's profiles. Then the scouting mission phase is the part where you actually search for startups. You will need to build a list of qualified startups and reach out to them for a one-to-one call to validate their solutions and sometimes their existence. You should then encourage startups to submit a collaboration proposal, which is essentially a few pages describing how they could work with you and a high-level suggested timeline and price for a pilot project. Evaluation and selection. You then want to evaluate the applications and select the most relevant startups with your team and key stakeholders. It is important to keep the momentum in this phase. And finally, you'll then have to sign a mutual NDA for further communication with the selected startups. Start your administrative list of to-dos early, such as legal, IT, and so on, as it is a process that can cause a lot of frustration or disappointment on both sides. You want to start the collaboration on a good note. You then have to define the scope and details of the collaboration. We recommend 1 or 2 workshops that you will carefully document with your stakeholders and the startup team. The objective of this phase is to 1. Identify a critical mass of startups, 2. Identify the most relevant, and 3. Contact them to encourage them to submit their application. It's important to note that startup scouting is an iterative process. However, an effective work structure maximizes the chance of project success.
In order to find startups, which are all over the world, and there's thousands of them, there's some platforms that may support you to do so. So there's also organization, and Startup Montreal is one of them, which in fact work with us in creating this video. And so in the next part of this video, we'll show you how to do it and what tools are they using. So you will learn the tricks and tools to make it happen. So let's have a look.
There are various software to help you scout startups. Crunchbase is a great destination for company insights from early-stage startups to the Fortune 1000. It provides various insights. Start Us Insights, on the other hand, features a comprehensive and exhaustive database for the investigation of relevant startups and technologies. Deal Room helps professional investors, corporates, and local governments to discover and track innovative tech companies. Startup Montreal is happy to collaborate with Deal Room, an international reference in data management for startup ecosystems, and provide you with this tool free of charge. Visit our website to use the Radar platform, which gathers crucial information on the startup ecosystem. Take the time to explore the platform to discover all startups that could help you innovate at radar.startupmontreal.com. Once you have filtered the startups you are looking for and completed exporting the list, you can then import the lists into a new document, qualify the startups, and find their contacts in order to present the collaboration opportunities to them. Import the columns from the Crunchbase or Deal Room CSV file into the correct columns of the Scouting List tool. Review each line by reading the description of the startups and validating their relevance and existence via their description, their website, as well as their social media presence to then decide if it qualifies or not. A simple yes/no. Assign it a rating, which is subjective, and associate it with a vertical of the project. You will also need to find the contacts of the founders of each of the qualified startups through the company's website, on Hunter, which is hunter.io/search, or through your network. You can even reach out to the founders and the team via LinkedIn by researching the LinkedIn page of the startup and messaging them directly. After carefully identifying internal project's key stakeholders and engaging them, you can plan your first kickoff session with the startup and the innovation project team. This session aims to not only build the relationship between the startup and your company, but goes in depth on the needs of the company and your client and the solutions of the startup. This step is crucial and can often lead to last-minute surprises. A mutual NDA must be signed by both parties at this point. It is best when facilitated by an external party. The objective of this meeting is to review the scope of the project and to agree on its parameters. Some elements and needs may have changed since the last session. This is also the time when you agree on the project's deadlines and schedule, determine everyone's roles and responsibilities. The RACI model works great, and deciding the governance model of your pilot project. It is important that all the key stakeholders are present at this meeting. An identified project manager must ensure the monitoring of all activities, managing expectations of all the actors as well as the risks of the project.
One thing that is common when you're looking for a startup, it's having them to pitch. So if you have worked with startup, if you know startups, you will learn that they're quite early stage. They learn how they can sell to organization and also to potential customers about what they're trying to develop. So having startup to pitch or would present, but they use the word pitch, it is something common. So you can do it in person, but I will recommend the first step you do it over the web. So you have the different potential startup to go through a first, I would say, screening process so they can pitch what they want to do. And then if you find a few interesting, you invite them to your site. And what you will do, you will invite internal people, management team, but also key people within the innovation teams to listen to what they have to pitch. And what is interesting, it's the internal people often learns a lot about how they're doing it. Because going through innovation, we have to do internal sales within our organization and learning from their startups are well they're doing it sometimes it inspires ourselves to better sell internally. But let's have a look how you can plan a demo day within the organization. And what is interesting, if you look at those different pictures, we'll see I was there during that day with this organization. So let's have a look.
The project manager, external is even better, must support both the startup and the company to ensure the success of the project. In addition to the project management plan, some tools, such as the report templates above, allow stakeholders and executives to stay informed on the progress and challenges of the pilot project. The objective of Demo Day is to show the final results of the project with important stakeholders, key executives, and the sponsors of the program. This is a key moment where it is clear that the main sponsor must make a decision on whether or not to go ahead with the solution and potentially a commercial collaboration, a go, no-go. This is a good time to give feedback on the startup and celebrate all that you have learned. In 2019, L'Oréal Canada launched an open innovation program in partnership with Osmo using this 5-step framework. This methodology led L'Oréal Canada to identify, vet, and prioritize the Montreal startup LiveScale. In its quest to become the #1 beauty tech company, L'Oréal Canada was able to launch a pilot project with Urban Decay to offer shoppable live stream experiences to its customers. Since LiveScale successfully launched this proof of concept, L'Oréal Canada has used its tech to host more than 100 live events across 9 brands, and there are plans to scale it globally.
Working with startup, it is something realistic for an established organization, and I would say that every organization should have at least a startup that they are working with. If you want to be called an innovative organization and you work solely internally with yourself and you have difficulty to work with, let's say, your clients, your suppliers, and even startups, you're not necessarily an innovative organization. Innovative organizations have the characteristic of being more open and also let others to innovate with them. So the challenge is there for you to at least have a startup within your ecosystem.
If you haven't already done so, you can get your hands on our popular 60-page visual guidebook for free. Click the link in the description below. Don't hesitate to watch the next video to learn even more about innovation management practices.